Hello, and welcome back. Sorry that the podcast's a little late this week, but we've been busy welcoming 450 children from 5 local schools into the church for Easter Cracked, so I think you can forgive us a few extra days. This week we have the message on how humming along builds community, brought to us on Mother's Day by our visiting speaker, Kat Bracewell. God bless. See you next time.
Imagine this, a guy sitting on a fold-up stool right in the middle of a zoo enclosure. He's gently strumming a guitar, just singing directly to the animals.
Oh, wow.
Right? There are no words, no shared language at all. Just this invisible, undeniable connection between a French singer-songwriter named Plume and the creatures listening to him. Okay, let's unpack this, because this vivid image is exactly the starting point for our custom deep dive today. We're looking at a recent sermon audio that uses the really simple, wordless act of humming to completely rethink spiritual connection and, well, how we build community.
Yeah, and it's the perfect visual to start with because it just completely strips away our reliance on vocabulary.
Absolutely.
When you hear a melody, it doesn't need to pass through the language centers of your brain. It bypasses our logical filters and speaks directly to the limbic system.
Which is where we process emotion.
Exactly. That's how a simple hum can establish this primal sense of safety and resonance without a single word actually being spoken.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you consider how the speaker in this audio, who's a pastor reflecting on human connection, describes his 84-year-old mother from Bath.
Oh, the former music teacher.
Yeah. He says back in the day, she could simultaneously play the piano, hold a full conversation with the head teacher, and, shoot a withering glare at a misbehaving kid in the third row.
That is some serious multitasking.
Right. But the quirk they shared today is that whenever either of them hears a tune, they involuntarily start humming and harmonizing. They don't plan it at all. It's like a subconscious emotional contagion, which makes me wonder, if humming happens outside our control, is the speaker suggesting spirituality is meant to be an involuntary reflex rather than a forced discipline?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the pastor anchors that very human involuntary reflex in an ancient text, Zephaniah 3.17.
Okay.
It's actually the only explicit mention in the entire Bible of God singing, and that totally upends the traditional religious framework.
Yeah, moving away from that image of a demanding judge issuing decrees.
Right. Instead, the divine is portrayed as a restorative presence that just involuntarily, joyfully sings over people.
But wait, if spirituality is this involuntary personal contagion you just catch, how does an organized institution even fit in anymore? The speaker talks about how Western churches are shifting from an institutional focus toward relational community. So what does this all mean for traditional structures?
That is a highly debated tension right now.
Because the audio mentions their upcoming Easter Cracked Week, which is a highly structured community outreach event. If I'm supposed to just be out in the world organically humming my own tune, showing up to a scheduled event in a building sounds kind of obsolete.
It does, but the speaker isn't saying we should scrap organized events like Easter Cracked. He makes a really crucial distinction between coming along and humming along.
Okay, so coming along is just showing up.
Yeah, coming along is just filling a seat. It's institutional attendance. But humming along, however, is taking that internal song like a continuous 204/7 rhythm of justice and restoration and bringing it into a shared space. A structured gathering only works if the people showing up are actively harmonizing with each other to build a living community, rather than just passively watching a show.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because making that shift requires completely rethinking leadership. The pastor actually warns his congregation, who are searching for a new leader, to absolutely not hire an opera singer.
Right. No solo divas.
Exactly. Don't hire someone whose entire goal is to blare their personal vision at top volume while everyone else just sits and listens. You want a rhythm section, someone who sets the groove so others can join in.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it all comes down to the nervous system and emotional safety.
How so?
Well, the speaker points out that because of deep personal pain, people naturally build up these prickly defensive strategies just to survive. If a leader comes in singing opera-like, dominating the room, it triggers those trauma responses.
And people shut down.
Precisely. But a leader who acts like a rhythm section provides a predictable, steady baseline. That tells a hypervigilant brain that it's safe to relax.
Which creates an environment where the littlest ones, the most vulnerable, feel secure enough to add their own voice.
You hit the nail on the head.
So for you listening, think about your own workplace, your family, or your community. It's pretty easy to spot who is just coming along to check a box and who is actually setting a steady rhythm that others can join. Are you a diva, or are you the rhythm section?
That's such a great question to reflect on, and it raises an important point about how healing actually happens in those spaces. The pastor notes that deep pain creates our walls, but how does simply hearing someone else's melody begin to tear them down?
Right, like mechanically, how does that work?
Well, in physics, there's this concept called entrainment. It's when two oscillating bodies lock into phase with each other. A stronger, steady rhythm will naturally pull a chaotic, weaker rhythm into alignment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when you sit in the presence of someone humming a restorative, grounded tune, your nervous system literally begins to sync with theirs. You don't have to consciously dismantle your walls. They simply become unnecessary in that frequency.
That is incredibly powerful. Sometimes, before we can ever find the right words to fix a situation, we don't need a grand speech or a rigid plan. We just need someone to pull up a stool, play a gentle tune, and remind us we aren't alone in the enclosure.